Hi class. In the last two videos, we looked at how to do initial research for our essay and then how to do the introduction for the essay. So within this video, you're going to learn how to do the analysis paragraphs and then the one synthesis paragraph. Now, what the analysis paragraphs are all about is when you take your two articles and you do analysis of article 1, talk about what the summary is, find a direct quote, and then list the positive and negative. And then you move on to make another body paragraph analysis of Article 2. You follow the same pattern. You do a 3 to 4 sentence summary, then you write a direct quote, and then the positives and negatives of that article, right? So that's the first two body paragraphs we're going to talk about. Then we're going to shift to the synthesis paragraph, which is where you take both articles and you bring them together and you synthesize them, right? So you start talking about what new information you found out, what new questions do you now have about this information, why do we need to question these kinds of articles, just reflecting on that information, right? So let's take a look at the PowerPoint. Particularly, what you want to start thinking about is you want to examine each article, right? So have your articles out, and on a separate sheet of paper, write down these answers. You want to do a 3 to 4 sentence summary of the article and how it solves your issue. So you want to give your audience a nice breakdown of what this article is about and how it pertains to your issue. Then from there, try to find 2 direct quotes or facts that you think will be persuasive for your audience, right? So keep in mind, your audience is your industry. You want to find 2 facts, statistics, testimonials that help prove that this article is valuable for this study because it shows that it does solve the problem of climate change in your industry. Then you want to think of one reason that the article is beneficial to formulating a solution for your industry, and then do the opposite. Why is it not beneficial to helping you figure out a solution for your industry? The reason you're asked to do these positive negative parts is because you're asked to reflect on the article, right? Not just to give us a summary, but also to have some kind of critical thought saying, why is this article helpful for us to understand the solutions we can create in our industry? Or the inverse, why is it not helpful? What's missing? What do we not know? What hasn't been told to us? So after you write all that down on a separate sheet of paper, you'll be ready to write the actual paragraphs, right? So you move in, and this is the organization of each paragraph. So remember, you're going to need 2 body paragraphs that analyze the 2 articles, 1 for each section. So for the first one, short summary, right? You should just be able to knock that down by putting the 3 to 4 sentences you already wrote down. A direct quote that illustrates the benefits of the solution. So we'll talk more about what does that look like. And then 1 positive, 1 negative about the article and how it helps propose a solution, right? So you do 1 body paragraph on Article A and then another body paragraph on Article B in the same order. What does that look like? Well, you can take a look at the sample essay here. For instance, right, I note what's the article's name, who's the author, and explains how Atlanta United soccer team has one of the eco-friendliest stadiums in the MLS. So 1 sentence, short and sweet. I've told the reader in my topic sentence, what is this whole paragraph going to be about, right? Same thing you should follow. Then comes my summary. So I started talking about the stadium. I started talking about specifics. We get to my direct quote right here. Notice how a direct quote is when you extract information from the article and you put it directly into your writing, right? You don't change any words, you put it directly into the writing. And you'll say, okay, particularly 4,000 solar panels throughout the building, quote, generate enough energy to power 9 Atlanta Falcons games or 13 United matches, Kuhn. Now, I put her last name here because I didn't start it off by saying Kuhn states or in Kuhn's article, right? We have to put some kind of tagging here to let the reader know where this came from. But this is also important to note because my direct quote talks about a fact from the article that shows that this work that they're doing at the Atlanta Falcons Stadium or the Atlanta United Stadium is helping become more sustainable, right? You'll see the same was chosen here. Kuhn states that these measures, quote, resulted in 47% reduction in domestic water use. So again, these 2 direct quotes that I utilize are helpful because it shows us that this article in particular has a solution that we can use for our essay. That's exactly what you want. Do not just quote any old thing. You want to make sure that it's a statistic, a fact, a study, a testimonial from an expert that shows that this article has a solution that you can use, right? So okay, I've done my direct quote, I've done my short summary. Now you'll see that I move into the parts where I talk about the benefits, right? So this article is beneficial. You can start off simple as that, or this article helps us see, helps us understand, or will help my industry figure out solutions because, right? That's a great way to start that 1 sentence. And then you'll see that I note, why is it helpful? Particularly, I say it provides a model for the MLS to follow when they build more sustainable stadiums in the future, right? So we can adapt that idea that Atlanta has used, and in the future, when they create new stadiums, ask them to do the same thing. Then we move on to the negative, right? However, so we have a signpost here of transition. Kuhn does not tell us how much money is being saved through these sustainable practices, right? So this is what's missing. We don't know how much it costs. We also don't know how much greenhouse gases are being eliminated by this kind of infrastructure. So you'll see the same kind of pattern follows along in the second one. So here's Article 2. I go through the same thing. Here's my summary. Here's my direct quote. And then I start talking about what are the positives and the negatives, right? And it goes on to the second page. So you should follow the same route. Write down exactly what I asked y'all to do. Remember the short summary, find a direct quote, one positive, negative, and then by doing that outline, you should be able to write your paragraphs much quicker. Then we're going to move into the synthesis paragraph, right? So to synthesize, what does that mean? Well, particularly this little diagram should help you think about it. Particularly you see the person thinking, your values, perspectives, and critical thinking. So what you're bringing to the table when you read these articles and when you're trying to solve an issue. Then you have the new information from the sources that you just read. You're trying to take all that into your brain and you're going to synthesize, right? So this person's synthesizing. You're taking these two groups of thought and you're going to create new thoughts and questions about your topic, right? So this is what the goal of this essay is. We want you to understand what synthesis is. Not just simply summarizing, that's not effective, right? We need to understand how to take in information and create new information or new questions for our industry, right? To be critical thinkers and to be productive employees in whichever industry we're going to be in, or just citizens or change makers, right? So with that in mind, when you synthesize, you might have questions or new ideas such as, I now understand why, I have changed my mind about, or you have the formulas there. I used to think about X, but now I think about Y. Or after learning A, I now question Z. It's really just revelation that you have after reading the articles. What new information can you share with your industry? What new things have you learned? Or what are you going to question about the way your industry functions? The way that they pay certain people, the materials they use, how the stadiums function, X, Y, and Z, right? So questions you may have even about the industry and how we can change it. So these are the kinds of questions you want to think about as you reflect on your articles. And a big thing, as I just said, is reflection. So you need to reflect on what you just read. Why is this important to your industry? What new ideas have you had from it? What new discoveries or what did you uncover about yourself? Maybe even that, right? All those help to reflect and help you synthesize what's going on in the articles. So, okay, now on the same sheet of paper that we were talking about, you want to reflect on the information, right? We want to think first, what's one similarity between both articles? So maybe they shared a fact, maybe they're both talking about the same design, maybe they're both talking about a similar solution, or maybe the message in both of them have some similarity, right? If you're doing the single issue, single solution, this should be really easy because they're both talking about the same solution, talking about probably the same facts. If you're doing separate articles on two different solutions, two issues, well then this would be more your route. It's going to get a little more difficult, but you need to be creative here. The second thing you need to write down, what two questions do you now have about the solutions presented, right? So you want to look back and think about the concerns worksheet, right, that we did in video 1 when we thought about our audience's concerns. Maybe something unethical is occurring in your industry. Maybe the cost is far too much and you would never be able to think of this climate solution. People power, do we have enough people? Infrastructure, do we have the stadium's environment, buildings, land, logistics? Is it logical? Can we even do it? Is it just going to be too complex to get through? And then consumer demands, right? Because at the end, you want to make sure the consumer is happy within the industry. Then finally, how would you solve this issue, the issues you present in this paragraph, right? So you want to think about a couple of questions that you just stated, right? That's the last thing you just did. And then how would you solve those? So putting it on you, be creative, think about those solutions. And so you can write this into this paragraph. After you write all that down, here's the organization. So think of topic sentence, how both articles contain one similarity, then you do question 1, solution 1, reflection, right? So this is the part where you're synthesizing. You're showing me your synthesis process and answers. Then question 2, solution 2. Finally, the closing statement, why does your industry need to consider these questions? So again, you want to speak to your audience, who's your industry. Why are these questions important for them to consider? You can see a sample of that in the essay, right? In this gold paragraph. So I start off by saying Kuhn, Hottel et al. Present effective ways to reduce greenhouse gases and waste produced by MLS stadiums. What I'm now wondering, so here's my one singular line. This is the opener. The topic sentence tells us how these two not so similar articles come together. Now I start my questions. What I'm wondering now is how can older MLS stadiums become sustainable without having the money or supplies of newer stadiums? And then I explain why is that important to think about. I think this is important to consider as there are many older stadiums in the league and their impact on the planet is not being reduced. Perhaps the league or local city councils can give monetary incentives to MLS teams to update their stadiums, right? So my question, my rationale behind the question, and then how I think I could solve that, right? Here's one solution. And it goes on as well. Additionally, I'm curious to know how sustainable soccer stadiums affect the daily behaviors of their nearby communities. So here's my question. Do people living near the Mercedes-Benz Stadium recycle or compost more? Do these neighborhoods even have the resources to be sustainable? If not, MLS teams should reach out to areas and educate these groups about climate change, right? So again, my question, my rationale, and then how can we possibly solve it, right? Now, and then the closing statement, why are these questions important to think about? Well, climate action should be accessible to everyone as we need both professional soccer teams, fans, and cities to work on this global issue. So one closing statement to close it down, and we're good to go. Okay, so after going through that section, you should be ready to write the two analysis parts, right? And then you have your synthesis paragraph. You should have your introduction, right? Then you'd move into your body paragraphs, which would be your analysis of Article A, analysis of Article B, and then the synthesis, which brings together A and B. And then we'll work on the conclusion, and we're excited, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.